understanding the ingredients themselves that are put into supplements, because there's so much trust and faith without understanding. And I think this is the moment for consumers to really have that same aha moment that I had, which is, wow, we go to the store, we buy things, we fill our pantries and cabinets with supplements, not ever questioning what's in them. After testing most of the brands in the marketplace, you're peeing out 84% of your supplements. And that's the mission of Absorption Company. Whether or not we are the solution is besides the point. The point is to constantly bring to the forefront of discussion the lack of absorption in supplements.
I had to ask you about the Twilight series because you were part of this cultural zeitgeist of a thing. What was it like to be a part of such a iconic book and then turned into, an adaptation of a book?
Yeah. Whew, that was a whole...
Nikki, welcome.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I feel so close to you right now.
So close, yet so far. And you drove 2.5 hours in traffic to come and see me today, so thank you so much.
I would drive 100 hours, so thank you with all you've done for me.
Oh, thank you. So maybe we could start there. Like, how did we get connected so people kind of get the context of that?
Ooh, okay. You and I, let's back up a bit. Well, we can actually kind of go into this whole, well, we'll save that for a minute. Okay, we can go there in a minute. You and I met because shortly after I had my first child, when she was about 2.5 years old, I kind of entered into this very strange mystery health crisis, if you will. And, every blood test in the world, every doctor in the world, at least that's what it felt like. I know I'm speaking in extremes, but just going down every single path imaginable to try to figure this out, supplement after supplement, blood test after blood test, and no one could figure this out. And it's actually something that I do want to talk to you about in depth, because I think this is a whole conversation we can have another time. But I'm not alone in that. This happens to women. This is actually quite common, especially after, the birth of a child, number 1, 2, 3, 4, who knows. Our bodies go through a lot. We store a lot in our bodies. If anyone out there is like me, I didn't grow up with health or wellness at the forefront. A lot of this is self-taught because of my own personal journey. And so our bodies are full of things from the decades plus, leading up to an illness. An illness doesn't happen overnight, right? So it's cumulative. It's years of, what we're putting in our bodies. And that's where that passion for me actually came from, was personal experience of having gone through something, and conventional medicine, conventional conversations, trying to put it into a box wasn't working. And so you start exploring other avenues, having conversations with, being open-minded and having conversations with people on, FaceTimes, like how you and I met. We met on a FaceTime. And I was so grateful that you had so much compassion and were willing to talk to somebody you had never met, just out of the goodness of your heart, trying to help me solve this by asking questions. It's one thing, I don't know if I've told you this yet, but one thing I really admire about you is you ask a lot of questions, which is so nice in like a doctor-patient dynamic and relationship, is to be curious about a patient, because there's so much to uncover through curiosity, and medicine is lacking that so much. Sorry, I digress, but that's how you and I met. Was I was sort of a kind of ish, patient, and we became friends, and then so grateful to have you, come on board to lend your knowledge and expertise and guidance with our company, the Absorption Company, which I'm so happy that you are aligned and believe in our mission. But
of course,
that's how we met.
It was like the height of the pandemic too. It was kind of a crazy time. I think it was maybe even earlier than that.
No, it was.
Like
you're right.
Yeah, it's like 2020 maybe. Yeah. So okay. So thanks. That's important. Kind of set the stage of, because what I was struck by when we first met was you had such a deep knowledge of wellness, and that's most of our telehealth patients, is they know more than the average person. But you get some people, especially in the field I think that you're in Hollywood, in that sort of world, there are people that are interested in health and wellness, but it's typically more in a superficial layer where they're interested in it. It's part of their culture, but it's not sort of a deep knowing. And you really are a student of human health, independent of the Absorption Company, which we'll get into. But like, it made complete sense to me when you approached me about the Absorption Company, because I know how deeply this is just part of your ethos. So how far back did that go? You mentioned not growing up with it, but when was that begin for you of just immersing yourself in learning about human health?
Yeah, so it's hard to talk about the Absorption Company without talking about the days and weeks and months and years and decade plus leading up to that. So let's start there. So I was 21 years old. It was July 5th, and I remember that date because that's the day after July 4th, which was a very eventful evening. So I woke up on July 5th. I've never told this story before. And I had this kind of light bulb moment of, I want to get healthy. And I know that might seem a little far-fetched for a 21-year-old to say, I want to get healthy. People are usually entering into a decade of a lot of exploration in that time. But I moved out very young. I grew up very fast. I had a lot of, experimentation in those years, and I was ready to create a shift, and I grew up, I had a very humble beginning. Single mom raising 2 kids in Los Angeles, just making ends meet, doing the best she could, doing the best we could. But I grew up eating everything off the fast food menu, diet sodas, smoked cigarettes for most of my youth, all that stuff. And health and wellness was just not at the forefront. It wasn't available to us. It wasn't a conversation that was being had. We weren't talking about organic food, and we weren't talking about supplements. We weren't buying supplement. That was not part of our home. And I was 21. I said, I want to create this shift in myself. And it started with food, right? What am I putting into my body? And I think for a lot of people, that's how it starts. And once you look at the food system and you say, okay, I'm starting to see a link here and a connection between a broken food system, broken healthcare system. You start to look at the chemicals that are being put onto your food, and you're like, oh, wow, so the agrochemical industry is actually inextricably linked to the pharmaceutical industry. And you're seeing this whole full circle profit situation that's happening, behind the scenes. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? And I am like, there's one thing I can say about myself, it's that I'm a student for life. I'm an expert at nothing, but I am a student forever. I want to learn. I want to ask questions. I want to know. And once you realize there's so much we're not told, and the lack of transparency and the lack of regulation, it becomes, I think, as a person who's, passionate about this, you become determined to find a solution. So now we get to a few years later, and then I've gone through now my own sort of health crisis without answers, hitting roadblock after roadblock. And I'm spending all of this money on blood tests, on supplements, and nothing is working. And then the next light bulb moment happens where you go, what's in our supplements? Why aren't they working? Am I supposed to feel the things that I'm taking? Because I'm not feeling what I'm putting into my body, but isn't that the whole point of a supplement? And that led me down this path of trying to find a solution. So, while the Absorption Company technology and science can sound super complicated, the mission is actually really simple, which is supplements that you can feel with ingredients in their most bioavailable form, with technology that allows you to absorb that at a 500% increase, which is amazing, but it's actually distilled down into one thing, which is people deserve supplements that they can feel, that make them feel better. And I know that's your mission too, which is why we're so aligned. But as someone who grew up without money, without access, without opportunity in that sense, I was, I think, particularly offended and alarmed at the fact that we can expect people to spend money, their hard-earned money, on supplements that don't work in an industry that isn't regulated, that isn't based on transparency. It's kind of like the Wild West. You can put anything you want in a supplement and no one is going to hold you accountable unless it's third-party tested, but brands are not required to third-party test. That was mind-blowing to me. And then after having children, realizing that we're doing the same thing with our children, right? That whole industry, kid supplements, none of it is regulated. So just as a human being on a fundamental level, I was alarmed and really unhappy as a consumer, purchasing things that weren't working and not seeing any progress in my own health journey until I started to.
Right. So you talk about bioavailability. For people that don't know what that is and the absorption of bioavailability, why is that so important when it comes to supplements? Supplements and food as a whole.
Well, I feel like you should talk about that. I can too, but you really are.
I can.
You're
you're
the expert. So our bodies are meant to absorb, but how they absorb depends on the specific ingredient that is put into our body, right? So we're not just talking about things that go in our body, but also on our body. Like our skin is our largest organ on our body, for example. And so we're not often taught to think about what we're even putting on our skin. We think about organic food, sure, and then it kind of stops there. And we don't realize that it goes so far beyond just, the food we consume, but also the supplements we take and the things that we put on our body, the shampoos that we use, the type of floss we're flossing with, the type of toothpaste we're using, the type of clothing that we wear, so that we're thinking about the chemicals that we're absorbing through our pores, through our skin. And so when it, comes to bioavailability, we need to really source ingredients that are made for your body to actually absorb. And there's a real lack of that all around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So how did you come across the technology that you use in the Absorption Company, which I think is really brilliant, and it kind of makes it, like you said, accessible for people that kind of overwhelmed. It's the Wild West out there, but you really thoughtfully, you and the team at the Absorption Company really came up with a thoughtful line of solutions, supportive solutions that have high absorption capacity, high bioavailability.
Yeah, so I do like to leave the science up to the science experts, and formulations up to the formulators. But so I don't want to, sort of oversimplify it when it's an incredible and very complex technology. But the way we came across this is, so Ian and I have been very passionate in this space, as you know, and I know we've been talking about that a bit. And we met the rest of the team, and Nate and Zeke, our co-founders, and they brought Capsoil to the table. So you had this incredible passion for wellness and the supplement industry and formulations, which a lot of that is Ian. And then you had this technology brought to it that allowed those ingredients to have this increased absorption through, and please, I don't mean to oversimplify it, but essentially taking lipophilic material and turning it into a water-soluble powder. And when you reduce the particle size, you increase the surface area, which I know you can talk about a lot. I needed a visual initially to really understand what that meant. But if you're thinking about surface area and you're thinking about particle size, when that particle size is reduced, it actually can reach more surface area. I think we're on video, so you can kind of see the visual of my hands as well at the same time. But, I'm sure you talk about liposomal and your practice all the time, why liposomal nutrients are so important. And so it's essentially like our stomach is not a very good place for absorption due to its acidic nature, right? And you can elaborate on that. And so the idea with liposomal nutrients is sort of being able to bypass that so that it makes it into the intestine so that it can really absorb. And a lot of what is currently available never makes it to that intestinal tract, right? So it's not really absorbed into the body, into the bloodstream. And so you do that by by creating a sort of like protective layer around those nutrients so that it can get through there. And so this technology allows us to do that, which has a 5x absorption rate, proven, clinically tested, proven, which is amazing. But what's equally amazing is understanding the ingredients themselves that are put into supplements, because there's so much trust and faith without understanding. And I think this is the moment for consumers to really have that same aha moment that I had, which is, wow, we go to the store, we buy things, we fill our pantries and cabinets with supplements, not ever questioning what's in them. We don't actually know, and we take them. You wouldn't do that if it were a pill bottle from your doctor, right? You would question it, but yet we walk into a grocery store or a pharmacy all the time. We buy things off the shelves and just assume that it's going to do the thing that it says. And not only does it not do that most of the time. I don't know if you've heard these stats, but after testing some of the most of the actually brands in the marketplace, you're peeing out 84% of your supplements. So not only are they not doing that, but there's also a dangerous component to that, because nothing is being tested. There isn't a requirement for third-party testing. So it's up to the brand to do that. So yeah, sorry, I went off on a tangent, but
no, you don't give yourself enough credit, Nikki, because you honestly are such an eloquent communicator and educator about this. It's so
thank you.
You don't need a scientist. You are such, because you know this stuff inside and out. And that's why I'm so excited for people to learn from you. So yes, it's the form of the nutrient, like whether you're talking about methylated B vitamins, right, versus like a synthetic form. You have the whatever micronutrient or compound or herb or nutrient that you're talking about. It's the bioavailable form paired with this delivery system, this liposomal delivery system allows the body to utilize it. So you're not having expensive pee,
right?
which many people, that's what they are finding. So, all right, this is great. Something came up as you were talking through this sort of dichotomy, this juxtaposition, if you will, between someone that I see as like such a down to earth, earthy, if you will. It's like I imagine you on a ranch, living off the land. But
I'm trying to imagine that too.
You're in this industry that is very glamorous, very about image and all of that. And you grew up in Los Angeles. You're like a true Los Angelino. So what's that like to be who you are in a world that's probably very different from you?
Oh goodness. Okay. It's always so interesting to hear someone else's perspective on that too, right? Because when I think of myself, so I didn't grow up in Hollywood, right? And a lot of people think of Los Angeles as one thing, which is Hollywood. But Los Angeles is actually this very diverse and spread out place that doesn't just have like the Hollywood Walk of Fame, So I grew up on the West Side, kind of like, surfer, skater vibes. And as I said, very humble beginning. And I wrote the first film that I was in. So again, I didn't enter into this world thinking I wanted to be an actress, right? I happened to write something that just sort of by accident and by fluke turned into a film, totally unplanned, totally unheard of, by the way. I was 13 years old. And
the film was called 13.
Yeah,
right?
It was called 13. And I remember...
And you wrote it.
I did. I co-wrote it. And I remember sitting in these audition rooms because the producers and director at the time said, the material was so sensitive. They wanted a young girl to read opposite these young girls. And I didn't have any acting experience, any aspirations of becoming an actor. But I thought it was really cool to be able to take off of 8th grade and, have an excuse. So I was auditioning with these girls, and at the very last second, they came to me and said, "Hey, we actually think you should play the part of the other girl, not the girl that was based on you, the other girl." Which was, I'm sure this could very easily become, a soundbite, but I was like, let me think about that. Because it wasn't something that I had even envisioned for myself. I was just a kid, and then I went back to, public school. I was just a kid in public school. went back to high school when the film was done and just sort of continued on, and then ended up making, sort of a career out of that before stepping away from that career to focus on the areas of true passion for myself, which is health, wellness, and sustainability. But as you were talking about this, sort of like outside perspective view of myself in this space, I've never viewed myself in that way. Like I don't even often hear the word Hollywood or the word actress anymore at all in my orbit. It's just been so long, and because it's not, I really am like, I'm a nature gal. I'm an animal gal. I would much rather be, barefoot walking through soil than in high heels anywhere. I can't believe I put on makeup today. It was only because I'm excited to see you. I miss you. I wanted to get all fancy for you. I'm wearing my same shoes right now that I've worn for 15 years, and I just got them resold. Look at the bottom of that. I resold them like every 3 years because I wear the same shoes every day. I wear the same clothes every day. I've got vintage pants on, and they've got a bunch of holes. And if I were to turn around and show you my butt pockets, you would see that my mom helps me patch the back of them because I wear the same pants. I ride my horses in them. I wear them to work. I'm really such a simple gal. Although I'll apologize in advance as I say the word simple, and I clearly have a lot of jewelry on, but when you work in the jewelry business, you take home your work, right? So I wear my work. And that is my other company, Bayou with Love. We're a sustainable jewelry company. So I guess in that sense, there's some sparkle here, but that's the only sparkle you'll see.
I love it. So is there anything that would get you back in the film world and in Hollywood?
Well, Ian's so funny. He says no. He's just like, it's a hard no for him. And I leave everything open. I'm sort of like, if I can find, if I feel passionate about something, there's a story I feel really passionate about. Yeah. If there's a story I want to write and then that leads to maybe entering back into that space, yeah. But for now, I have to tell you, I feel so creatively fulfilled. And that form of storytelling and art, that was really creatively fulfilling for me. But in a different capacity, I'm kind of doing the same thing now, like with Bayou with Love, I'm writing all the copy, I'm designing, I'm photographing everything that goes onto our website as well as our socials, as well as so I'm the creative force behind all of it, from design to writing to photography. And it's opened up a whole chapter of creativity for me. And then with the Absorption Company, I feel so fueled by this idea that we can, by we, I mean like the collective we can move culture forward in that way. We can inspire all of us together. Again, back to that word curiosity, and ownership of our own health. I think that's a theme, by the way, that we're seeing everywhere right now. People are really interested in taking ownership of their lives and understanding what's in their water, what's in their food, what's in their supplements, what's in their home, what chemicals are around them. I'm feeling so like fired up by this new chapter we're all in together. But for me, why would I want to leave this space that feels so impactful right now and go back and go back to that unless there's a story I really want to tell? So the door's not closed. It's just I'm really busy in this space and I'm feeling really fulfilled.
That makes complete sense. I mean, since you got into the film industry such a young age and in it for such a long time, how had the industry changed from the start till when you kind of said, I'm taking a break?
Ooh, I don't know that I've ever really thought about that question. Well, I think every industry has changed quite a lot.
Right.
And I'm seeing, I guess, major shifts in, I think, things that I'm loving from a distance, I have to say, because I am at a distance now, is I think women are treated differently now. I really appreciate that. I think voices are heard differently with more care, compassion, prioritizing voices. I appreciate that kind of storytelling for sure. I think a lot has shifted, but you'll have to ask me if I find myself on a set anytime in the next couple of years. You'll have to ask me, and I'll tell you all the things that feel totally different.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, like, 15, 20 years ago, there were things that happened on sets that I'm sure would not be happening now.
Right. Can only imagine just what people not respecting boundaries, overworking people. I mean, what did you see?
I mean, yeah, all kinds of things like that. I think we just there's a different understanding of rules and what's appropriate and how we should speak to people and all of that I think we've seen a massive shift in the last decade, and I for one really appreciate that. I advocate for that. Yeah,
Yeah, well, like you said, and probably that's applicable to so many industries, right? It's
totally.
like there's a lot more education and light on things that were in the dark.
Yeah.
I have to talk to you. I mean, because I record the podcast in between telehealth patients. The podcast is not my day job, but you're on the schedule, and also my team loves you and knows you and respects you. They begged me. I had to ask you about the Twilight series because you were part of this cultural zeitgeist of a thing.
Yeah.
And like, you have to ask her. You cannot have her on and not talk to her about it.
What do you want to talk about?
What was it like to be a part of such a iconic book and then turned into an adaptation of a book?
Yeah. Whew, that was a whole chapter of life. When you take a bunch of kids, we were kids. So I was 19. Right. I think I was 19 years old when we started those films.
Wow.
I was working at a clothing store in Hawaii, actually. And, I was making like $7 an hour. And I got a call that there was a book series. There were 3 books at the time. And, did I want to read them, and did I want to talk about them? And from the moment I picked up the first book, I couldn't stop, right? Which is like everybody's story who's read those books. And we all knew that there was something special about these books. But at the time, there was just a little tiny following, I can't believe when we were making the first film, there were a couple like blog sites up, that were voting on like who should play the characters. And we're like, wow, people know the books. How exciting. We're a part of something, a few people know about, a handful of people. And we shot this first film, and I'll never forget this moment. The first film went to Comic-Con, but the whole cast didn't go. At the time, only the 2 leads, or one of the leads, I can't remember, went. But I remember watching it on TV like the rest of the world, and watching Rob get out of his car on the TV, in San Diego at Comic-Con, and seeing crowds and crowds of people just screaming for Edward Cullen. And I turned to my family, because I was like watching the news in the living room. I turned to my family. By the way, this is before social media, so we were actually watching a television. And I was like, wow, I think we're going to make another movie. I think there's going to be a number 2. So I was watching along with the rest of the world, and it grew so fast. None of us knew what it was going to become. It was incredible. It was full of so many teachings and learnings. And as an adult, because I really was a kid at the time, as an adult now, a 36-year-old woman, looking back at that experience, I just can't believe how much we packed into that decade and how much it changed and impacted all of our lives in different ways. For me, that was part of why I stepped away from that industry. I felt like I had seen so much, experienced so much, and none of it bad, all of it great and positive, but so potent and so consuming that I was like, I think I want to try to flex some other muscles for a second. I want to see what other parts of my brain and my body I can use, what I'm passionate about, because I was a child when I started, and then kind of in my mid to late 20s by the time it was all dying down. And I really wanted a chance to like get to know other areas that I felt I wanted to lean into. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And my other cast members who I just love and adore so much, we're like all on a family texting thread, which is very sweet. We talk every couple days now.
Wow.
Voice notes and virtual hugs, and we try to get together, although that's a little tough because there's a lot of us to wrangle and we all have kids now. And so that's a little crazy. But
That's so
yeah, it
cool.
will leave. I am forever changed by that experience in a great way.
That's beautiful. That's so cool that you keep in touch as well all these years later. What what was your favorite like memory of filming? Does anything come to mind of something special that is
Hmm.
crystallized?
I haven't thought about it in so long. I
Was there a
think
film like out
like
of all the films that you did, like which one was the most fun to film?
Well, for me personally, I know it's selfish, but the most fun was the third film, which was Eclipse, because we finally got to tell sort of my character's story. And it was so fun to, step back in time with costume and, hair and makeup that wasn't just vampire makeup. Putting on vampire makeup every day was, like I'm not trying to complain. It's not like a boo-hoo thing, but like it comes with its challenges when your entire body
Yeah.
is spray painted white and you're in wigs and you're
Right.
in,
I
corseted
mean, if I had a
clothing and
nickel
you're
for every time I heard that
yeah,
sentence,
right. Yeah, yeah. And you're in contact lenses, by
what
the
it
way,
takes to
like
become a
painted
vampire.
contact lenses. And, you're on a set for, gosh, anywhere from 12 to 17 hours a day. It was really fun for me to step out of that side of Rosalie and jump into her past and her story. So I would say Eclipse.
That's
But
cool. That's cool. My telehealth clinic manager, Andrea, gave me a Cliff Notes version of the movies this morning. Because I was like, you have to brief me. I know it as like a cultural. And I was like, what? She gave me the rundown.
you're not a
You were
die-hard,
from the.
twi-hard? You're not,
I'm
that's not,
not. I'm
okay,
not.
well, so
But
disappointed.
but you were a vampire from the 30s and
Mm-hmm.
like you were immortal.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do know, I will say this, what I do know about the series now, knowing you and like us working together on the Absorption Company and being in that sort of working on this project together, I see that Twilight fans still will really ride hard in the comments on social media.
Mm,
Like the fandom is
yes,
still
it's
alive.
very much alive. It's so alive. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable to me. It's amazing. I mean, it just goes to show you like those books and those stories and those characters, they really resonate with people. I have to say, I mean, not I'm not trying to move off of I know you're a huge twihard, so I'm not pivoting. But even with like
Sorry.
13, gosh, I'm 36, so that was 23 years ago, if I'm doing math properly. And I
Right.
still have people talk about how that movie like really, really changed their life. So movies stick with people, stories stick with
Yeah.
people. It's
Yeah. Absolutely. Out of all the characters that you've played, do you have one that you identify with the most?
it's so wild is these are things I have not talked about in so long that I couldn't even recite my own resume to you right now. So when you say
We're
all the
bringing you out of
characters, I,
retirement,
I know
Nikki
I
Reed.
see that. I feel like that's what you're doing. I'm going through in my head and I'm like, what have I done? What films did I do? What characters? Um, I play two characters right now: mom, business owner, full-time dishwasher, full-time laundry doer. Um, I think I've loved parts of all of them. Like I
Interesting.
have played. One thing I will say is that I've played a lot of either like dark or heavy or mean or like a lot of antagonists, right? Even in Twilight, one could argue that Rosalie, she was the only one that was not in support of Bella and Edward's relationship. Therefore, she's not going to be an audience favorite until you get to a point of really understanding where she was coming from and her own pain and her own journey. And I think with every character I've played, part of why I've been so attracted to playing those darker characters is because I want to show the human side of them and show their pain and show their, I think it's important for people to have connection and compassion for everyone's journey. So I've tried to approach each character like that, but a total unintended consequence of this that I had not thought of when selecting these characters is that audiences have a really hard time separating an actor from their character. So one of the most common comments that I would get if we did anything like Twilight related, especially having a career leading up to Twilight of playing kind of these, darker roles. I think the only light role I've ever played was Lords of Dogtown.
Another great film.
That was a very sweet, but Kathy Alva was just such a cool chick. I got to play a cool, kind chick. But one of the unintended consequences I hadn't thought of with playing all these darker characters is that, people, they just assume you're that person and they can't explain why and they can't put their finger on it, but it lives in their subconscious. So, I would have people come up to me and go, "Oh my gosh, it's so nice to see you smile. You smile?" And I'm like, "Oh, all day long." That's what I do. But maybe not necessarily with the characters I've played, or, they see your aura in a different way. And it hadn't really dawned on me that I kind of, I guess, had put into the subconscious of so many people that there was like a, heaviness or darkness with that. And for me, I just found those characters so interesting. But it's true, I was excited to kind of shed that and embrace myself, for a second, I guess. Yeah.
You mentioned, I love that. It's very interesting, and I could definitely see that. So at the height of this, the Twilight series are done, you mentioned wanting to step away and not leave it entirely, but not do as much of it. Was that difficult? Did you have people telling you no, you're crazy, you need to work more and be in the industry more, not less?
I really hope this doesn't come off as being too bold, but I have never cared what anyone else has thought. I kind of march to the beat of my own drum, and I think the only time I heard those things, but again, still did not take it into consideration, was in the middle of those films. I would leave to go do things that really fueled my soul. Instead of showing up to X, Y, or Z awards, I would be, I was living in Greece, learning Greek, because I was so committed to seeing other places, other cultures, having these life experiences that were so important. I, at one point, left with a boyfriend and lived overseas. And then at another point, immersed myself in a totally different culture. And I would get calls, sure, from my team being like, "Hey, if you don't get back here for this magazine cover, they're going to give it to someone else." And I was like, "That's okay with me." Well, if you don't get back here and go to these awards, you're not going to be on this, next hottest list for this or that. And I didn't care. I really always prioritized. It never made sense to me how anyone could play a character not having lived a life first. That didn't make sense to me. The best of the best actors in the world, which is not a category I fall into, I'm not saying that, but the ones that I had, idolized, they all had these really interesting lives, at least from what I saw and researched. And that's all I ever wanted to do was live life. And I prioritized what moved my soul over what moved my career. And I never prioritized my career over any of that. Yeah.
Beautiful. And something that moves you, I know, is sustainability. You mentioned Bayou with Love. Can you talk about that? The world of jewelry and why sustainability is such an important part of the conversation and it's not talked about enough.
Yeah. So 8 years ago when I launched Bayou with Love, that was not even a term anyone had ever heard of. So I was kind of on my own little island there. And I think I was just tired of seeing so much waste. I get really freaked out about waste. It's, again, one of those things once you see it, you can't unsee it. So you have these visuals of our planet with these landfills, with our oceans and our rivers and the crowding of stuff. And even when I put this visual into your brain right now, it's going to be hard to think about how you can actually just throw stuff in the trash. You know, you see people throw things away all day long. You're like, where do you think that's going? So when we launched Bayou, it was actually through Multipurpose Apothecary because I had a vision of creating a product that could be used start to finish. So, you know, a candle that could be melted and then the wax used as hand cream in a reusable tin can that could go with you to carry items after. So anything I could do, it became sort of a little obsession, like how little can I use and waste? Right. And then 3 months after we launched Bayou as Multipurpose Apothecary, I got a phone call from Dell, tech company Dell, asking if I had any ideas surrounding what we could do with their recycled gold that had already been, you know, repurposed into their own supply chain for decades, because Dell is actually a very cool, conscious company. And I was like, well, sure. I have a great idea for that. We're going to make the very first, at least I think we were the first, I guess I can't be sure, but first jewelry line made out of 100% recycled tech gold. And
Amazing.
when we sold out in the first 48 hours, the entire collection, and we launched at CES and we won the audience award at a tech convention, I was like, oh, wow, this must be interesting to someone else besides me, because it was like this cool world where we could merge tech, fashion, and sustainability. And I don't know that it had ever been done before. And I got really excited about being a part of things that felt good, like just tying back in. You know, that's why when people say, how can you connect the Absorption Company, you know, supplements with sustainability, with health and wellness, with jewelry, with all, how can you connect all those things together? And I'm like, there is a central pillar that connects all of those things, which is I want to be a part of things that make people feel good, that do good for the world. And all of those fall into that category. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see a through line as well. In addition to making people feel good, there is a minimalist aspect to and sustainable aspect to the Absorption Company too, because it's not a million different things. You're giving people solutions, simplified solutions, so they don't have a supplement graveyard. They have what they need, the essentials of what they need.
That's right.
And I think that's who you are, right? That's like how you live your life, and you brought these intentional things out to make people feel good, but have the sustainability and minimalism aspect to it. Have you ever kind of seen that through line between the two brands?
Well, I love how you just said it, and I'm taking it in, and I see that too. I totally agree. I don't know that I've ever thought about it that way, because that's just such a part of my life. Like I really try. Minimalism is just like such a part of I don't often think about myself in that way, but yeah, we live in a culture of more and more and more, and I don't want more. I want less, but I want good, you know?
Yes.
I want quality.
That's what I was trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not about being, a vow of poverty and being ascetic and not having things. You want good things, but you want quality things, sustainable things, and effective things.
Yeah, effective things.
Yeah. And the shoes are getting me too. I mean, 15 years and you resole
Yeah, I totally do. Look, these are new soles. You can see the bottom. I do them like every 2-3 years, only because I wear them every single day. So.
Wow. I mean, I haven't seen like your closet in your house, but like you do seem like a pretty minimalist person. Would you say that's like, how minimalist is your wardrobe? How much?
Well, I don't want to give myself too much credit. I don't want to paint a false picture. I do. There are things that I love
there's a
that I
spectrum
have.
of minimalism. I'm not a minimalist, so I just love learning from people that try to pare down with the things that matter the most.
I will tell you that I don't have a closet that only has 3 t-shirts and 1 pair of shoes. No, that is not accurate. But I will tell you that I try to keep things for an entire lifetime, and before I purchase anything at all, I think about where it's made, how it's made, and how long I'm going to wear it. So like this backpack right here, boom, this guy. So this guy's fairly new. I got him a year ago before I traveled through Switzerland, because I knew I needed a smaller backpack to be able to carry some essentials in. Love that word. And I chose that backpack very carefully because I knew it was a new item in my life. And I have worn it every single day. It's replaced. I don't have a purse. I don't have anything else. It's from the day I got it. So every airplane ride, every train, bus, that's my backpack. So I really try to think about where something's made, how it's made, and how long I'm going to keep it. And if I feel like I can offer it a home, a couple decades long home, it can come into my closet. But it's not like my closet's empty. I don't want to. But
do you ever do like a closet purge? You ever like try to
I do.
How much stuff can I whittle down?
I do. It feels really good. I love that. I love Marie Kondo. I love Bay Johnson's book, Zero Waste Living. You know, I read a whole book on how you could fit an entire year's worth of trash into a mason jar. And I totally thought about trying to do that. It's not realistic for me in my life, especially with kids and animals. But it's a goal, right? So I try to set a goal. And at the very least, if something like that inspires you to just be conscious of it, right? If it means like someone offers, you know, like I came here today into your studio, and of course the first thing I'm offered is a water, but I make sure I bring my own water bottle. That's the thing I do. Little choices you can make every day. It's all impactful. Every single choice is impactful. Whoever told anyone that like that little thing they're doing wasn't important, it's so the wrong message. Everything is important. It's all impactful. Do it. We can't feel overwhelmed or overwhelm other people with it. It's like, if that's all you can do today, you know, using your reusable grocery bags, awesome. You did great, you know?
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
As you know, the podcast is called The Art of Being Well. At the end of every episode, we have Your Art of Being Well. This is Nikki Reed's Art of Being Well. I'm so excited to pick your brain about this stuff. What is the worst tasting healthy food that you have? It's not for the taste. It doesn't taste very good, but you do it for its supportive, nourishing health benefits.
Shilajit.
Oh, that's a good one.
But I do actually kind of love it, but I take it every day.
You grow to love it.
You grow, it's kind of, that's dirty, right? So you kind of love it. But can I tell you my new Shilajit method is I mix my Shilajit in honey, and it's really good. Oh, well, it's not really good. That's an exaggeration. Better.
It's relative.
Yeah, it's relative.
It's real relative. Yeah. But you know, it's so true. I mean, when you have these sort of earthy, pungent type things, you do have this acquired respect for it. You're not like, this is delicious, but you like and kind of enjoy it in a way.
I know.
Not in like a masochistic way.
Well, maybe
like
a little.
I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, right.
No, there's an appreciation for it because you actually can feel the earthiness, the effectiveness. And so when something makes you feel good, you can appreciate the medicinal component of it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, for the Absorption Company, I know it's like picking a favorite child, but like, do you have a favorite formula within the Absorption Company line?
Oh, yes. Calm, hands down.
So for people that don't, like, can you describe it, like the taste? What's it do for you? Like, take them through the sensorial experience.
Yeah. So I do love the taste, but I also really love, so I am a person, as you can tell probably, with high drive, high output. I'm sure you are too, right? We sit there and wonder why we're, working 16 or 17 hours a day, but there's a reason for that, right? There's a fuel and fulfillment to that too. And calm is an absolute necessity for me because I've never been able to find something in my previous life, pre-Absorption Company, that didn't act as a sedative to create a calming experience, right? And so we designed calm. It was a huge priority for me from the beginning. Also, just looking at the amount of people who are on anti-anxiety meds in our country. I mean, we are such a pharmaceutical-driven country, and everything, has and I'm putting this in air quotes for anyone who's not watching the visual, but every, ailment, condition, complaint, feeling we have with our bodies, somehow or another, the pharmaceutical industry has met it with a quote-unquote solution. And none of those things actually encourage root cause exploration or true healing. And our calm formulation is something that I need for my life, but also I take a lot of pride in. I'm really excited about this idea that we can offer this to people who do have that high output or too much on their plate, which is the majority of us here. Most people, working one, if not two jobs, multiple kids. Life is stressful. And it's hard. And a lot of us have anxiety, and we need things that we can take in the morning that's not a sedative, that can actually just calm the day. So I actually mix Calm and Restore in the morning, and it sets my day. And I'm really, really sensitive. I don't know if anyone listening is too, but I'm really sensitive to all things. My body's, pretty clean at this point, and I'm just really sensitive to it. And so I can tell you, like, if I can take Calm in the morning and not feel like I'm gonna pass out from it, but instead just feel balanced and level and calm, then it's like that's my number one. That's my ride or die right there. In fact, I have some in my bag.
Non-negotiable. Yeah. What I love about it, it has liposomal saffron, which the clinical trials around saffron is so exciting. I mean, it works. I mean, I can say this. It's like it works the same or better as antidepressants. It's actually getting to the root cause by modulating these inflammatory cascades that are causing a lot of problems. A lot of this stuff is GABAergic that's in Calm. It's supporting GABA. It has passion flower in it. It has magnesium bisglycinate. It has ashwagandha. It has L-theanine in it. It is a great formula. And it tastes good too, which makes it sustainable. They can keep going back. It's not like an arduous, punishing thing. It's not like a Shilajit elixir. It's like the opposite of Shilajit.
Right. You want it to be enjoyable.
Exactly. And something that you talked about at the top was Absorption Company. It's third-party tested. I love that it's glyphosate residue free. You're looking at that stuff as well. And it's gluten-free and non-GMO for people as well that are thoughtful of those things. This is sort of the level of why I was so honored when you asked me to be a part of the advisory board and really kind of work on education, because it is stuff that's so important around the supplement industry as a whole.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that.
The next question I have is, what is the weirdest or maybe most out of the box, because some would say sometimes controversial thing you've done for your wellness that you're willing to admit on a podcast, Nikki Reed?
Oh goodness. I feel like I've done it all. Hold on, let's dig into it together.
How woo are we talking about? I want to know. Give me the most woo thing that you've done.
Oh, I don't even know. Can you give me some examples? I mean, is it like, obviously castor oil packing is not woo woo.
No, look, that can get people going. That can get people going as far as conversations go. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
People love to know about castor oil packs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in theory, again, I'm not the doctor, but I listen to a few of them around me. In theory, castor oil has some really amazing health benefits. Its ability to sort of penetrate, into your body on a deeper level. And so there's something called packing, where you can put castor oil packs on your body. A lot of people recommend, doing it on top of your liver and then wrapping and sleeping through the night. There's a lot of talk about, like, if you have lung issues, using castor oil topically actually can, penetrate and impact in a great way the lung tissue. I do a lot of things like that, things that I feel, I've seen results from, like 1,000%. I can tell you without any hesitation that red light, the right kind of red light, 1,000% I've seen immediate health benefits. So I'm not someone who wants to wait 3 or 4 months to see a result from something. I want something that works in the moment, hence our supplements. I want to feel them in the moment. And it's the same thing with red light. Like, I've had moments of, being really, ill or under the weather, and just committing to time in front of the red light and seeing an immediate transformation within an hour. So things like that, ozone, lots of IV things, of course, PRP stuff, foot bathing, detoxing through the feet. I don't even think these things sound so woo-woo though, but I mean, I've done them all.
No. That's woo-woo is relative.
Yeah.
Woo-woo is relative. So, no, I mean, for some people it would be, but no, it's just all really solid stuff. I love it.
Ozone in saunas, ozone enemas. Lots of things in the Ayurvedic world too that get really fun and spicy. When I was going through this health, it's funny because when you're going through a health crisis, it's obviously because doctors want to, I believe that doctors are inherently good and they want to do, they want to do well, want to do good by their patients, do well. But everyone threw everything at me, everything under the sun at me. So every time I would see a new doctor, they would have a whole list of 30 or 40 different things they wanted me to try. And I was like, okay, well, that's probably why by the time you and I had spoken, I was like, let me just tell you all the things I've done already so we don't have to repeat them.
Here's the abridged version.
Totally.
Of it all.
Totally. And so, yeah, I think I've definitely explored.
Yeah, for sure. What is a book that you've read that's just was in a paradigm shifting book, if I could add it to the Art of Being Well book club?
The Body Keeps the Score. You read that book?
Good.
Yes. That one is really, really impactful. I can't, obviously the title says a lot, don't want to overshare, but your body really does keep the score, and we store everything in our bodies. And that's why if you want to get woo-woo, one could say that illnesses are here to teach us. They're not happening to us. They're actually happening for us, because it's very rare that we wake up one day and we're just sick. The body knocks, and then it starts to pound, and then it kicks the door down. And I had ignored a lot in my life, a lot, whether it's, physical, whether it's maybe health things or choices that were made when I was a child. And who knows, like I said, everyone was just doing the best that they can. But like you and I, we're all born in the time of, medical exploration and experimentation. I mean, do I think it was the right move that I had my adenoids and tonsils removed all because I had recurrent ear infections and no one looked at root cause of that? No. I mean, I wouldn't do that now to my child, but these are the choices that were made when I was a kid, because everyone was just doing what they were told and what, okay. And so you look at these things now, like, okay, I've removed some of the, the red flag warners of my immune system and my filtration system in a lot of ways, and that's what science and medicine told us to do at the time. No one questioned it. But when you look at, that's just one example, but when you look at those things about someone's medical history in their body, and then you cut to 10, 15, 20 years later, and we think about those implications, we see lawsuits that are happening, I'm not going to name brands, but lawsuits happening with, different baby brands because, items and products that were used on babies when I was a baby 36 years ago, now they're linking that to X, Y, and Z diseases and illnesses. And, it really inspired, I guess the one thing, my overall mission as a human being is to just always ask questions and trusting is great. It is. And hopefully in an ideal world, we all have things around us or brands we create that are just deserving of all that trust. But really, I've learned as a consumer, as someone who's gone through a health journey, as a parent now, that asking questions is just so important. And that's the mission. Like, that's my mission. That's the company's mission. That's the mission of Absorption Company. Whether or not we are the solution is besides the point. The point is to constantly bring to the forefront of discussion the lack of absorption in supplements, the lack of transparency in the supplement industry, and try to create solutions to better that.
Yeah, well said. Nikki Reed, come back anytime, my friend. This has been a blessing. Where do people go to learn about all the things? Where do they go for Absorption Company, Bayou with Love? Tell them where to go.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so wonderful. I think you are the most incredible human, and I'm happy our paths cross, beyond happy, and also just so grateful that you're a part of our team, our Absorption Company team. So thank you.
Thank you.
And if anyone wants to learn more about the Absorption Company, they can go to absorbmore.com. Or on Instagram, it's at absorb.more. Or, with Bayou with Love, we are BAYOU with love.com. Same with the Instagram handle. And we love hearing from everyone and interacting and talking with everyone. So join us there.